also working on insect and pathogen resistant in brassica crops and genome editing in plants. He has 21 years of experience in research and 18 years of experience in teaching in plant molecular biology and biotechnology. He has completed his postdoc from Institute of Biological Chemistry, Washington State University, USA, and also has teaching experience in principles of genetic engineering at Acare Agin Agriculture University, Myanmar. He has also received ISCA, a Young Scientist Award by Indian Science Congress Association for the year 2000-2001. And he is also a recipient of DBT Overseas Associateship Award in 2004-5 for postdoctoral research at Washington State University. He has also received Lal Bahadur Shastri Young Scientist Award for the biennium 2003-2004 by ICAR DARE Government of India. He has served as a professor in NIPB New Delhi, and he is also a core member of NIHEP project, and he has various research papers in many recognized journals like Frontiers in Plant Science, PLOS ONE, Planta, Plant Physiology, and there are many lists. Yeah.
I'll try to do my best, and I am otherwise also available to you throughout the tenure of the training. We can always discuss more and more. But important is, before other eminent speaker take over you and tell you about the various applications of this CRISPR-Cas mediated genome editing, we thought that towards beginning we must have a lecture on the basic mechanism of this technology, how it works, how it was mimicked, learning from the bacterial system, and then as you further progress throughout this training program, you will see various applications. So, outline of my today's lecture would be, I will try to create the context of or the background that how development of this CRISPR-Cas system has helped us in plant biotechnology or as such in biotechnology. Then the core mechanism of this system, how it occurs in bacteria, and how we mimic in plants, and then a little bit of application. I would not talk much about application because on applications we have many different lectures later. And then again just to give you a flow chart that how do you get started with the experiments on genome editing. So, as the biotechnology, the subject of biotechnology or advanced biology made progress over the years, our quest was to resolve problems which were otherwise not doable through conventional approaches. Like, so if you recall the histories of this subject, once we learned the restriction enzymes, we started manipulating, creating recombinant DNA. Then we learned methods of transfer. So, we knew that we can transfer genes, we can modify genes, but then slowly the transfer methods developed across the plants, across various animal cell lines. But then the number of useful genes or in other words gene discovery was the major challenge. So, we were working on to learn about genes, their exact function, because we knew that once we discover the gene, then we can make use of the gene. There is no limitation otherwise. And in the process of gene discovery, some of the methods that we usually use is, say for example, many a times we overexpress or we transform the gene in a particular plant or in a particular cell line and try to see the effect once the gene is constitutively expressed, or we say overexpressed, right. So, through transgenic strategy. Then sometime we have mutants, and once we isolate a gene and hypothesize its function, we try to prove the function through complementation of the mutant, right. So, particularly in Arabidopsis, you know, the series of mutants are available for almost all the genes. So, if you isolate a gene, you can prove the identity of the gene by complementation. Then Also, we try to shut down or attenuate the gene, again to show the loss of function due to attenuation of the gene, again to prove the gene function. And mostly we use RNAi. Yeah, I am sure you know the basics of RNAi, where we introduce a double stranded molecule which is complementary to the target gene, and then at transcriptional level the gene activity or gene expression is attenuated. But loss of function can be actually or best studied if you can create a knockout, right? And in creating knockout, so far we are dependent on the mutagenesis process, which is done either through physical mutagen or through chemical mutagen. But it was, the major problem was it was all random, means you cannot target the mutation, you can treat the plant and then everywhere mutation will happen, and then you have to do a large throughput screening to identify the desired mutant and further characterize. Alternatively, you might have heard about the tDNA insertion, creation of mutant by tDNA insertion, where if the high efficiency transformation protocol is available, then you do a large scale transformation and you expect that the tDNA will go and insert randomly at many different places, and then each line will be a mutant for one or many genes, and then you further characterize that where is the tDNA inserted, what is the loss of function that has happened, and so on. But again, you could not get rid of randomness, because once you develop tDNA mutant, you cannot target that, okay, my tDNA should go and insert in this particular gene. That was not possible. So, linking the phenotype to genotype, that still remain a challenge, and creation of mutation, it becomes a chance factor. Whether you will get the desired mutant or not, that was a chance factor which will decide the frequency and recovery of the desired types. So, definitely at this point of development, or at this point of state of the status quo, we can appreciate that if one can think of a precise method of knocking down a gene, that would have been a of big use, and that exactly what has been possible to do through the CRISPR-Cas system, right. So, you know that the major difference or the major advantage that this CRISPR-Cas system has provided us is the non-randomness in creating mutation. Okay. Otherwise, biotechnology wise, every method is same that we learned earlier, but the only advantage is we have reached to a stage where it has become precise, non-random. You can direct the mutation at your will. So, now what is CRISPR-Cas and what is its basic mechanism? The CRISPR-Cas system is basically a adaptive immune system present in many bacteria. Okay. So, it is a part of immune system. Immune system means it is inbuilt. It is inbuilt to prevent the MGEs, means mobile genetic enzymes. You see and you would appreciate that the star words are actually happening in the world of microbes. If you recall the discovery of restriction enzymes, right, it was again an immunity system, again an immune system present in the bacteria. We learned it and then we made use of it, right. Similarly, here also the CRISPR-Cas system is actually a immune system present in many bacteria, and then it is adaptive. So, the difference between restriction based immune system and CRISPR based immune system is that restriction based immune system is not adaptive, means it cannot change. Suppose a particular strain has EcoR1 enzyme producing capability, you cannot change it to a BAM-H1 producing immune system, right. It is not adapted, but here it says it is adaptive, means it can evolve, it can change, right. And then there is a loci called CRISPR loci, which is involved in manifesting this immune response or immune system, and this CRISPR loci, it has basically CRISPR associated genes and several repeat sequence that I will show you how it works in the bacteria. So, the CRISPR locus is generally consist of an operon of several Cas genes. Cas stands for CRISPR associated genes and a CRISPR array. This array is composed of several repeats and non-repeat sequence. So, there will be alternate repeat, non-repeat, repeat, non-repeat, repeat. So, this is an array of repeat and non-repeat sequence which is called CRISPR array, and apart from that array there will be a operon which is called CRISPR operon or Cas operon, CRISPR associated proteins operon. Operon means there will be set of genes present contiguously which are co-regulated. That is operon. Co-regulated means when they are expressed together, when they are shut together. So, that is the operon, and then the non-repeat sequence is a variable DNA sequence which are known as spacer. So, repeat spacer, it will be like that. The spacers are the key elements of adaptive immunity as they store the memory of an organism whenever it encounters. Okay. This memory enables recognition and neutralization any future attempt by the invaders. So, it is like immune system. In mammalian immune system also, you know, there is a memory. Once it encounters a particular antigen, there will be certain antibodies raised and kept ready. Whenever there is a future attack, they can easily amplify and prevent the disease. So, the CRISPR locus, if you see the organization of the CRISPR locus, basically this is the Cas operon. There are several Cas genes one after another co-regulated, and then this is the CRISPR array, as I said that it is the alternative repeats and non-repeat or spacers. So, the origin of these spacers is the foreign invaders. Okay. So, whenever there is a attack by any genetic element, say bacteriophage or conjugative plasmid, the certain part will be integrated within this CRISPR array. Okay. Certain part will be chopped up and integrated within the CRISPR array, and then how this immune system works? In the process of transcription, this CRISPR array will produce the primary transcript which will have the spacer and repeats alternatively present. So, you see here there are many repeats and then many different types of spacers. So, each might have a purpose to neutralize a particular invader. They are represented in different colors, they are different, right. So, once they are transcribed, the pre-CRISPR RNA, it will be further processed. It will be further processed at the 5' ends and 3' ends, and then you get the mature CRISPR RNA which will essentially have the spacer sequence, one of these spacers sequence at the 5' end and then the repeat sequence at the 3' end, right. And then one of them which will find the complementary binding to the invading organism that will go and bind that particular invading genetic element or genetic sequence. And before doing that, one thing I forgot to tell you, once the mature CRISPR RNA occurs, they will recruit the Cas endonuclease enzyme. So, one of the Cas proteins will be endonuclease. Say for example, here Cas9, you can see the picture says Cas9, there are different types of other endonuclease also. So, the mature CRISPR RNA, it will recruit the Cas9 and then go and bind to the specific site of complementarity, and then it will bring the cleavage, it will bring the endonuclease based cleavage of the DNA and destroy that mobile genetic element which is trying to invade. Understand? So, apart from the role of different Cas genes and CRISPR array, there is one more element that is required for this system to occur, which is called trans-activating CRISPR RNA. It is trans-activating. What is trans? Trans means it can go and bind. cis means what has to be present in continuity, right. So, it is a trans-activating CRISPR RNA. So, this RNA, they go and bind to the precursor CRISPR RNA, and their binding is necessary for the two things. Number one, the processing to occur, okay. Processing to occur, this binding is necessary, and second thing, to recruit the endonuclease enzyme, that is the Cas9 here, okay. So, for these two things, this trans-activating CRISPR RNA is essential. So, they go and bind to by complementary binding to the repeat sequence, and then they bring the processing, recruit the Cas9 enzyme, and then go and do the surveillance job. Surveillance job means they will interrogate where is the sequence, go and bind and cleave that. Understand? So, this process can be divided, or process can be explained in three steps. One is adaptation, second step is expression, third is interference. It is an adaptive immune system. So, the first step is adaptation. Yes, tell me. No, these are repeats. These brown things are repeat sequence. Yes. Yes, only to repeats. So, that means what? Their function is generic. Whether it is a yellow color spacer or green color spacer, does not matter. They will do the job for all. Understand? They are actually having different targets. Because these sequences are different. This is from, say, for one particular phage, it will go and destroy. This is for another, but the other part is generic in function. Understand? Okay, so three steps: adaptation, expression, and interference. What is adaptation? Adaptation means how you acquire the foreign sequence within the array. Within the array, because that has to be a part within the array. It has to be first integrated, then only it will be transcribed to produce the so-called guide RNA. I will come to that. So, first is adaptation. During the adaptation step, fragments of foreign DNA are processed and incorporated as a spacer. Okay. So, this is the adaptation. You can see here, this has been adapted, this has been adapted, this has been adapted. So, this is adaptation. It is processed and integrated within the CRISPR array. Then expression. Expression is the transcription. Transcription of the array as well as transcription of various Cas genes from the Cas operon. Okay, transcription. So, there will be pre-CRISPR RNA formation, and then processing will take place. Okay. This is the expression part. So, the CRISPR RNA becomes pre-CRISPR RNA processed into CRISPR RNA, then CRISPR RNA are assembled with Cas protein to make a ribonucleoprotein complex. Okay. Understand? So, the ribonucleoprotein complex, once it is formed, then it has two kinds of function. It becomes able to do two kind of function. One is the surveillance. Surveillance means it will interrogate the sequence where it has to bind. That is the surveillance function, and second is the interference part. Interference means the cleavage and destruction, DNA cleavage. So, once the ribonucleoprotein complex is formed, then comes the interference. Interference is looking for the complementary sequence and then creating a double stranded cleavage in the target DNA molecule. Okay. So, these are the three steps. Okay, fine. Now, after knowing this basic mechanism, you might have been told about the history in yesterday's class by Dr. Anirban. So, there is a lot of progress in last 25 years. when it was first reported in 87, and then many things identified, the genes were cloned, they were shown to function in trans condition or in other system, and so on and so on. And further, finally, this biological phenomenon has been developed into a technology. Okay, technology means where you can apply the knowledge, that is technology. So, the knowledge acquired is now converted into a technology, the technology of genome editing. Now, over the years again we have also learned that in fact there are diverse kind of CRISPR-Cas system in the bacterial species. It is not one, there are diversity. There are different types of CRISPR-Cas system present in different bacterias and arches. So, why this kind of diversity has happened? Because you know, against for any immunity system there would be always a sort of rat race between the invader and the immune system. Same thing happened with the CRISPR-Cas system also, and because of that it evolved further. So, because of the continuous rat race between the MGE or mobile genetic elements and this immunity system, there is a rapid evolution of many different CRISPR-Cas system. However, the modules remain same. Modules means, as I showed to you, there will be transactivating CRISPR RNA, then CRISPR RNA, then array. The modules remain same. The evolution happened only in terms of the change in the Cas genes, the change in the repeater architecture, and so on, right. And then based on those kind of changes, or you can say similarity based on those features like architecture of the CRISPR-Cas loci and type of Cas protein present, we can categorize this diverse kind of CRISPR-Cas system into 2 classes and 6 types. 2 classes and 6 types. Okay. The 2 classes, the 2 classes, that is type 1, class 1 and class 2, they are basically different in terms of the constitution of the Cas operand. Okay. Constitution of the Cas operand is different between the 2 classes. And then again the types, that is 1 to 6 types, they are different in terms of the number of units of Cas protein that are present within the Cas operand. For example, type 1 and type 3 system utilize large multicast protein complex for CRISPR RNA binding and target sequence degradation. So, you see here multicast protein complex, whereas type 2 it uses only one, a single DNA nuclease to do all the recognition and degradation part. So, this is the difference between 1,3 and type 2. In one case it is multi and in another case it is single. Okay. So, you see this is again a pictorial depiction of the different types of CRISPR-Cas system. The class 1 versus class 2, class 1 involves multiple subunit, okay, multiple subunit of Cas genes to which makes the CRISPR RNA effector complex, whereas class 2 single subunit. Single. So, what is this effect CRISPR RNA effector complex? CRISPR RNA effector complex means it will do the job. The job is two things to do: interrogation and cleavage, surveillance activity and cleavage, right. So, these 2 jobs has to be done, where it is done by multi subunits in case of class 1 and where it is done by one subunit in case of class 2. Okay. Then again, if you look into the different types, you see here in 1, 3 and 4 multi subunits fine, and it is mostly 4 to 7 subunits in 1, 3 and 4. These are types within the class. Okay. So, 4 to 7 subunits. Interestingly, in type 2 you have only 1, and that is one of the reason that for converting or to deducing the technology, we have mostly used this type 2 of class 2, type 2 of class 2, because only one subunit will do the job, both the job, interrogation or surveillance job as well as the cleavage, double standard cleavage. Okay. So, the entire module can be divided into 3 main functions. Some of the Cas genes, they are responsible for adaptation, for example, Cas 1 and Cas 2, and you can see here in all the types the Cas 1 and Cas 2 mostly conserved, there is no difference, and this is responsible for adaptation, means acquisition of the spacer from the foreign elements. Okay. This is the interference part. Interference means interrogation and cleavage, that is the interference part, and this is the expression part. Expression means transcription of the array and then processing, and after processing what will be formed? The 5 prime will be the RNA which will be complementary to the foreign element, and 3 prime will be for binding to the transactivating CRISPR RNA. I will come again to that. So, the important point here is that because of the single subunit based function of interference, we have preferred to use the Cas9 system for the purpose of deriving the technology of genome editing. So, in case of class 2 Cas9, which is the best characterized so far, here 2 unrelated nucleus domains, one is called HNH and another is called RUBC or RUVC, they are responsible for cleavage. Okay. So, in Cas9, so now I am taking you specifically to the Cas9, not other Cas, because Cas9 is mostly used for the technology purpose. So, now I am taking you to Cas9. So, it is a class 2 type 2 and it is a RNA dependent endonuclease, fine, and it contains 2 unrelated nucleus domain, one is called HNH domain, another is RUVC domain. They are responsible for cleavage of the target, and in cleavage of the target, okay, another this is a bit details about the APO enzyme of Cas9. So, if you further study the structure of Cas9 protein, basically it has a bilobe structure. So, it has multiple domains, you can see here multiple domains, but they are folded to give you 2 lobes. They are folded to give you 2 lobes, and these 2 lobes are doing the 2 main job. One is the recognition or interrogation or surveillance job, another is the nuclease. Nuclease means which does the cleavage, and so the nuclease lobe is essentially consist of 2 domains, one is called HNH and another is called RUBC, fine, 2 domains, nucleus domains, whereas the rec lobe is consist of multiple helical regions, and these 2 domains are again linked by arginine rich helix bridge. You need not to go into all these details, but what is important to notice here is that the 2 lobe structure which is responsible to do the job, one is recognition of the complementary region and then nucleus domain, And again these two nucleus domain, one is HNH, another is RUBC. HNH cleave the target DNA which binds to the guide RNA. Understand? I think I have a picture. Okay, you see here, I will go back later, how the double stranded break is. So, once the complex is formed, ribonucleoprotein complex is formed. What is that ribonucleoprotein complex formed here? Your CRISPR RNA plus Cas9. Okay, CRISPR RNA plus Cas9. So, now it will come and bind to the target region, and then the Cas9 enzymes HNH domain will cut the strand which is bound to the CRISPR RNA. Whereas the other domain, that is ROBC domain, it will cleave the displaced strand. It is called displaced strand, this is called bound strand. So, the displaced strand is cleaved by ROBC and bound strand is cleaved by HNH domain. Okay? So, I take you back. So, another important part of this Cas9 protein is the CTD tail or C-terminal tail. Interestingly, this CTD tail is responsible to bind to the PAM sequence. Have you heard in yesterday's lecture PAM sequence? What is that PAM? Where is it present? Target. So, one of the requirement of the target region is that there has to be a PAM sequence adjacent to wherever that binding and cleavage will happen. So, a CRISPR RNA or CRISPR RNA, CRISPR-Cas complex, ribonucleoprotein complex, it won't function if there is no PAM sequence, right. So, that PAM sequence, recognition of that PAM sequence is done by this CTD tail. But in apoenzyme form, the CTD cannot recognize the PAM sequence. What is apoenzyme form? Apoenzyme means protein part, exactly. So, it may not be functional, right. There are two parts, the protein part and cofactor part, which makes the holoenzyme. Holoenzyme is the biological functional form. So, the apoenzyme may not be functional. So, this apoenzyme of Cas9 is again not functional. Okay. So, the CTD tail in apoenzyme form, it cannot specifically recognize PAM, but once it recruit the Cas9 enzyme, then there is a conformational change in the structure and it becomes now very specific to recognize the PAM. Understand? Okay. So, I am just telling you the different domains that are present in Cas9 enzyme. So, here three things are important. One is the nucleus domains, one is the rec lobe or recognition domain, and third thing is CTD tail or C-terminal tail domain, CTD, C-terminal tail domain. You have understood the function of nucleus domains. There are again two domains, one is HNH, another is what they do, you are clear. Recognition is responsible for go and binding. Now, I am talking about the function of the C-terminal domain or CTD. This domain is responsible for specifically binding to the PAM sequence. Understand? But in the pure enzyme form, which is called apoenzyme form, where the enzyme is not functional, the CTD does not have ability to bind or recognize PAM. Why it is important? If it is, why are you telling that it does not bind? I am telling because that indicates that binding of Cas9 or here I am talking binding of CRISPR RNA into this protein is important to activate the enzyme also. Understand? So, when the binding of CRISPR or recruitment of CRISPR RNA happens, this CRISPR RNA comes and recruit this Cas9, then there is a conformational change, and now your CTD becomes capable or able to go and recognize a PAM sequence. Understand? So, how this can be found out experimentally? Scientists, they have studied the X-ray crystallography of the complex and pure. Complex means when it is bound to CRISPR RNA as well as the apoenzyme form, and they have found there is a conformational change is happening. Okay. Now, so achieving site specific recognition requires the assembly, otherwise it won't function, otherwise that conformational change will not happen. So, you will not have specificity in recognition. Okay. So, the CRISPR RNA and Cas9 both has to come together, then it become that it acquires that capability of specifically binding and doing the job. The 20 nucleotide spacer sequence, it is responsible for DNA target specificity. Where is this spacer? At the 5' end of CRISPR RNA. And again, within this 20 nucleotide, 10 to 12 nucleotide towards the 3' end of the 20 nucleotide. So, suppose this 20 nucleotide is spacer, okay. The 3' 10 to 12 nucleotide, they have been identified to be the seed sequence. They are very crucial for specific recognition of the target. Okay. So, whatever you have designed 20 nucleotide, that 10 to 12 nucleotide, if it shares homology with somewhere other sequence, you will get off target effect. Okay. So, this 10 to 12 is identified as the seed sequence, and then if there is a resemblance in the seed sequence, even if you have mismatch in the other region, does not matter, you will get a lot of off target effect. That is the importance of this region. And then, as I already told you, the role of the trans-activating CRISPR RNA is two. Number one, it helps in recruiting the Cas9, and number two is processing, it helps in processing. Okay. So, already I told you how the double stranded break is. So, here is the PAM sequence. PAM means protospacer adjacent motif, and usually it is mostly it is 2 to 5 base pair, and there are some variants also. And remember, these PAMs are specific for particular Cas9 enzyme or particular endonuclease. Not necessarily all the time you will be using one particular Cas9, you can have different Cas9, but these PAMs are specific for a specific Cas9. If you change the Cas9 enzyme, you have to look for a different PAM, right. So, once the double stranded break is created, then what is the possible fate? Maybe a little bit you have been told in previous classes, there could be two kinds of repair. One is called NH, means non-homologous end joining. There is nothing, nobody to help. Cleavage is there, so some polymerase and ligase will join it. That is non-homologous, and obviously you will have certain part missing. Certain part missing, thus this will be a disruption if it is within a gene sequence, or sometime you can have homology directed repair. Homology directed repair means you create the break and at the same time you provide a template. Okay? You create the break and then you provide a template that look, you copy this while repairing. So, naturally that template has to bear homology this side, adjacent side and dictation for the breakage part. Okay? So, in case of the homology based repair, there will be it is again classic process, you can see in any textbook. There will be D loop formation, though 3' end will start extending, copying the one of the strands which has been provided as a homologous region, and then finally you end up with integration of this part, or rather replacement of a homologous part. And whereas in doing this replacement, again you can have some insertion or deletion, it may not be very precise all the time. So, you can appreciate here that by combining creation of double stranded break and providing a template to do the homology based repair, you can replace or insert a certain stretch of DNA sequence. Understand? And if you do not do that, you can simply create disruption in the gene. So, this is traditionally used for creating mutants, knockout mutants, where you just create double stranded break and look for this disruption. And there are many other applications which have come out because of this homology based repair. I will tell you a little bit of that. So, now how do you get started with your experiment? So, what is your requirement to do the editing? Your requirement is to create a CRISPR RNA which has two parts. One part is the let me So, another important thing, as you seen in case of the natural biology, that the trans activating RNA will come and bind to the CRISPR RNA towards the 3' end. Now, people have demonstrated that they can function as a single RNA. So, we call it single guide RNA. Single guide RNA means the trans activating RNA part as well as the CRISPR RNA sequence, they are fused together. Okay. So, you know that this is the region which will decide the target, and this is the region which is responsible for recruiting endonuclease or Cas9. These two things are required to target any region of your wish. Any region of your wish you can target if you can create this kind of RNA molecule which is called single guide RNA molecule. Fine. So, in nature you have two RNA molecule which is actually guiding. So, guide RNA is two component, but we can do two component fused together to create single guide RNA, and in experiments single guide RNA will be definitely preferred. Okay. Now, what is to do with PAM sequence? I told you that PAM sequence and the Cas9 enzyme, there is a relation of specificity. Okay. So, for example, see, in most of the cases the Cas9 enzyme which is used is from Streptococcus pyogenes, SP-Cas9, and SP-Cas9 has a PAM sequence requirement of NGG, means any nucleotide followed by G and G. So, it is very easy to find. So, whenever you are targeting a gene, it is a pre-requirement that PAM sequence has to be there, and adjacent to that you have to design the guide RNA, sgRNA, otherwise it will not function. Suppose you are not getting any this particular PAM sequence, then you have to look for some other PAM sequence which will require some other Cas9 enzyme. Understand? Similarly, another Cas9 enzyme from Staphylococcus aureus it has a longer PAM, NNGRR. But remember, when you are designing a single guide RNA or sgRNA, it is not that you have to incorporate PAM there, nothing to do there. Through bioinformatic tool, you have to decide which region of the target gene you are going to your sgRNA work. Their PAM sequence has to be there. You have nothing to do in your designing the sgRNA. Okay. So, if you want to do genome editing, your job is simply to make a single guide RNA and make a expression cassette of that. Plus, you have to also arrange the synthesis of Cas9 enzyme, because Cas9 enzyme is from bacteria. If you want to do genetic engineering in plant, Cas9 is not there. No? So, you have to introduce Cas9 enzyme, you have to introduce single guide RNA. Two things. So, essentially the vector system for incorporation of a genome editing machinery will have two components. One is the expression system for a sgRNA and another is expression system for a Cas9 enzyme, and then you introduce them inside the plant and look for the genome editing products. Otherwise, all these steps are similar as you do the plant transformation work. Typical plant transformation procedure: make the construct, introduce inside the cell, regenerate the plant and look for the phenotype. Okay. So, the vector that you do not bother about all this part, you just see what I am speaking to you. The vector system will essentially have one expression cassette for Cas9 enzyme and another expression cassette for the guide RNA. Okay. And maybe you have been already told a little bit, but there is a small difference in the few conditions while designing this expression cassette. So, when we say expression cassette, what do you mean? Expression cassette means the whole arrangement that a particular sequence will express in the ectopic condition or in the transgenic cell. Whole arrangement means it must have the coding sequence, it must have a promoter and it must have the other regulatory requirements. So, here while expressing Cas9, it must be flanked with nuclear localization signal, because otherwise this protein will remain in cytoplasm. How it will edit inside the nucleus? Because in eukaryotic cells you have a defined nucleus, isn't it? The cytoplasm and nucleus is separated in eukaryotic cells. So, essentially the Cas9 protein has to be flanked, or at least at one side it must have a nuclear localization signal and then a strong promoter. We can use the commonly used promoter in transgenic study, like say 35S promoter, CAMB 35S promoter, many ubiquitin promoter and so on. And then the terminator, what is the role of terminator? It creates the polyadenylation signal so that the transcript is efficiently translated, okay, efficiently taken over by the ribosomal machinery and get translated. Whereas, while expressing the sgRNA or guide RNA, you do not need all these things, because there you do not need any protein product. You have to just ensure the transcription, that is it, and you have to ensure that it does not come out from the nucleus. It has to remain in the nucleus. Okay. So, we prefer to use those promoters which are responsible for making spliceosomal RNAs. Have you heard of snRNAs, short nuclear RNAs? They are involved in various processes including spliceosome. One of such is U6. So, many a times you will see U6 promoter is being used. Okay. So, that is a promoter of a spliceosomal RNA, so they are Pol 3 kind of promoter. So, you have U6 promoter, then you have the single guide RNA arrangement, the CRISPR RNA and the transactivating RNA, and the Cas expression system need a typical cytoplasmic translation, and then once your construct is ready, then you can go for its introduction into the plant. Okay. Of course, there are methods to validate whether it is functioning or not. You can validate in tube. Dr. Ansul will take some practical how you validate whether a particular guide RNA is functioning or not, whether it is able to do the editing or not. Those things in vitro validation you can perform, but then finally you want to deliver it into the plant cell. For delivery, again there are many methods. The quick assay could be through delivery into the protoplast. Protoplast, I hope you have you know what is protoplast. So, you can isolate protoplast and then deliver it inside the protoplast and see whether gene editing is happening or not, and even those protoplast can be regenerated into plants also. So, protoplast is good for quick assay to see whether it is functioning or not, but at the same time those protoplast can be developed into microcalli and again can be regenerated into the plant. And another advantage with protoplast is that sometime it can offer you a DNA free strategy. DNA free strategy means you need not to introduce permanently like making transgenic. You take the RNA molecule, you take the Cas9 protein, make a ribonucleoprotein complex and deliver inside the protoplast. So, there is no question of any integration of any of the DNA. So, this is DNA free. So, logically it should not be transgenic now, because you are not integrating anything, you are just giving the product to edit at the DNA level. So, the delivery through protoplast can offer you a DNA free strategy. Then you might have heard about the gene gun method, bialistic method, that is again can be applicable here to deliver. Then of course, the classical agrobacterium mediated transformation, where you develop the binary construct the way as I told you, and develop the plant which will have the expression cassette for Cas9 for sgRNA, and you can look for the edited plants in the next generation onwards. For some of the crops you have very efficient agrobacterium mediated transformation protocol, so that is an added advantage. For example, for Arabidopsis, Floral-Dip method, and then rice, maize, tobacco, almost all crops are now can be transformed. So, that is not a limitation anymore. And then there is another method of agro infiltration where virus mediated delivery can be done. So, all these methods except bialistic we would be able to do in the practical, like say for example, we will do the protoplast isolation, we will do the agrobacterium mediated transformation, also we will do agro infiltration. Agro infiltration is today only, no, as per schedule, I do not know. Anyway, so all these things you will be doing in practical. So, again you can get clarified, but basically these are the various kinds of delivery methods once your sgRNA and Cas9 expression cassette is ready. But the final step is how do you analyze or how do you identify those mutants where genome editing has happened. Again there are various methods. When you start to do work on a particular crop, many a times we prefer a GFP based construct where our purpose is just to demonstrate that yes, we are able to do the genome editing, or you can say standardization or optimization of the procedure for a particular work. So, there what you can do, you can use a construct or a binary vector with a mutant GFP. Mutant means there is some part which is out of the frame, and therefore, your GFP is not functional, and then you do genome editing and try to restore this GFP function. So, if it happens, that will indicate that the genome editing is happening. So, this rectification of this mutation will require DNA cleavage and the non-homologous end joining. So, that is a simple method many a times we use when we begin to work in a particular crop to optimize the procedure, to optimize the protocol, right. But when you are targeting a particular trait, then of course, your binary constructs will be different looking at the trait. Another very easy and very popular method of detecting such mutation is the use of T7 endonuclease. This T7 endonuclease 1 is a endonuclease, DNA endonuclease, which cleave only a heteroduplex double stranded DNA molecule. You understand heteroduplex? Means double stranded DNA molecule where two strands are differing. There is a displaced region. So, there this enzyme can cleave. So, if the editing has happened, if you PCR amplify a particular the target region that you are trying to edit, PCR amplify, and then if in some of the strands editing has happened, then you will get heteroduplex formed. So, you try and see whether this enzyme is digesting or not, and if you see that, oh sorry, this is not visible, but here to show that in some of the cases the cut has happened. It is not visible here. So, if editing has happened, you get a insert fallout that indicating that the enzyme has cleaved, which ensure that editing. Again, this will be done in practical. Dr. Anshul will show you how this assay is done. And of course, the another popular method is if your targeted region include a restriction site. That means, when there is a editing, the restriction site is lost. So, that will create restriction fragment length polymorphism, right. So, if the restriction site is lost, you get a bigger fragment. Okay, is that clear? Same like RFLP, restriction fragment level. And then final is the sequencing, because sequencing will confirm that what has exactly happened, what kind of disruption has happened. So, that is the final call to confirm the editing, and then comes the trait analysis, whether you have achieved the trait or not. So, this technology can be used for a diverse purpose to manipulate a gene to any extent that you can imagine. Okay. You can add or delete, say if I this is a beautiful picture, I liked it, it is taken from this particular website. Say if you look into the constitution of a particular gene expression system, the very first would be some regulatory regions, right, where say transcription factor or suppressing factor binds and regulate the expression of the gene, and they are usually present upstream to the promoter. So, you can manipulate even at that point, you can activate, you can suppress by manipulating at that point. How do you do? Like homologous, homology based repair. So, you can supply a homologous region to be incorporated, which will actually a activator, transcription activator sequence, or which could be actually a transcription suppressor. So, that has been a very much useful, or at least generated the possibility of rectifying oncogenes, proto-oncogenes, suppressing oncogenes like that. Okay. So, activation or suppression of expression of a gene can be done, then promoter can be deleted, mutated, again one can stop the expression of the gene, one can change the promoter from inducible to constitutive or other way, one can disrupt the gene, so called creation of knockout mutant. then one can make point mutation, one can insert a reporter gene within a gene, so that whenever there is expression it can be easily visualized, and so on and so on. You can insert even LOXP site, which gives you Cre-Lox based excision, conditional excision of certain portion or creation of knockout. Then you can insert new exons or new piece of coding region as a fusion protein, so that gives you a fusion protein, and so on. So you can even manipulate the microRNA control element, that will again it will alter. So there is immense possibility. It will depend on whether you understand the biology or not, but whatever you want to do, you can do probably. It has been demonstrated. Okay. So that is the potentiality of this technology. I don't go into the other applications. Okay. Quickly, few advantages that has made this technology very popular. The most important is its simplicity, accessibility, and cost effectiveness. You might have heard of other genome editing techniques like ZFN, TALENs based technique, but the problem was they are very complex, and all the time you required to do a lot of protein engineering to create those motifs, and then it became very costly. Say for example, in gene finger you have to all the time for one particular target you have to do those creation of that motif, that involved a lot of cost. Whereas in CRISPR it looks very simple, only 20 nucleotide 5 prime end of the sgRNA you have to change. Rest of the things is generic, it can be applicable across the target. Only 20 nucleotide you will change to change the target. So once you have a setup, you do not incur much cost. That is the major advantage. Only 20 nucleotide, and then large number of guide RNA can be produced and tested in the lab without much cost. Another thing is that the methylation does not inhibit or any way interfere this mechanism. So when you are targeting a particular region, you need not to bother whether it is there is CPG island within this, because in eukaryotes many a times, almost close to 70% are methylated. So you need not to bother for that. You can target based on the other requirements, and then it is easy to do multiplexing. Multiplexing means where you create a sgRNA with many targets, many targets. So that is multiplexing, again we will be telling you in detail. So easy for multiplexing. Few limitations, only requirement is presence of PAM sequence in the target, that is very important, otherwise you have to go up and down to see where you can find the suitable sgRNA designing region. There are few examples where some targets showed that they are recalcitrant to sgRNA binding and cleavage, but this could be because of hairpin structure formation and unknown factors. We do not even know that why this is happening. There are certain examples, so that is limitations. And then the major important thing where still a lot of research is going on is to reduce off-target mutation. Remember, once I say off-target mutation and I list it under a limitation, it does not mean that you will have a lot of off-target changes, does not mean. But we want to arrive at a precision where we can make use of this technology even for human being. Okay. You probably would not worry if there is few off-target effect here and there when you are working in plant system, but you cannot afford to do that if you are using human system to rectify some of the genetic defects or inborn metabolic errors. So it has to be absolutely at the best level of its precision. So that is the reason still lot of concern is there to further reduce the off-target effect. Okay. Not reduce, probably ideally you would reach when there is no off-target effect. That will be the maximum attainable limit of any precision. There are many success stories, you just do not bother, because straight wise it will be spoken by different eminent speakers. but just to have a sense of completeness, I inserted few. But to excite you, I will simply show you the pictures. You might have heard of this news that in US a mushroom has been developed which doesn't get blackened because of storage. Button mushroom, you know that if it is more than 48 hours old, they get blackened and that market value is gone. So, that blackening basically happens for this enzyme polyphenol oxidase or PPO. So, by genome editing, a group of scientists, they have removed this gene. So, now there is no blackening. So, this shelf life or storage life has been improved, and US considered it as a non-transgenic. They said no regulation is required, it is like normal traditionally bred variety. So, they allowed it to be released without any regulation. Another interesting thing, a dog which has been made into a muscular dog by deleting a gene called myostatin. They say they will be better police dog because they would be able to run faster and longer. So, a muscular dog has been created, and many more examples are coming and will be coming because the technology is very potential. Plant trait wise, again many people will tell you about the application of this technology. So, I am not going at this point of time. So, I think I am done. Okay. So, this is given by Anshul to show that there is a lot of how the technology is booming, lot of publication, and how see United States total paper 2000, and this is only 2018. So, 2 more years we have progressed. So, almost 3000 papers from US, 2000 paper from China, and it is booming, many patents, etc., etc. So, finally, the few technical things, if you are now well versed, this is fine, because this will help you to understand the subsequent lectures. It is given at the back of the manual also, you can see. You should be able to understand this abbreviation, so that you can understand all the lectures well. Thank you very much. So, now if you have any questions, you can ask me. Oh, it is 1:30 past. So, you can park your question for later point of time, no problem.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving a nice lecture on mechanism of genome editing, and sir has covered it from mechanism to what are the requirements, methods, its application and limitation, and I think everybody has understood the things. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
And before leaving, we are bringing lab coats for you, because I think for afternoon you have to go to pathology directly, no?
Mm.
So, sir, we have to give them